Hello and welcome to our Friday night, day 5 of Dancer from the Dance Festival of Irish Choreography. We'd like to thank everyone who has watched. I'm so grateful for all of the 32 choreographers who have contributed. I hope you enjoyed watching the performance about Miss Cunningham and the description of my relationship to Cunningham and his work and its importance. I really wanted to show Roratorio as the last part of that program because it's a project that the Trust and I are trying to realize here. And we very much hope to make Roratorio in some form happen. Also, our last event at the festival is a Céilí, and there's something about the theme of Roratorio, the music and the dancing styles that connects perfectly with our final event, which is a Céilí. And I asked Liam o Scanlon to curate the Céilí for us. He's chosen some incredible people, musicians, dancers. And I would now, it's my great pleasure to introduce Siobhan O'Malley and Liam Scanlon. Siobhan is a cultural producer, and Siobhan is coming to us from Achill, County Mayo. And Liam, the dance artist who you saw performing on Tuesday, is coming to us from Newport, County Mayo. So we'll be joined by some more people later, but it's my great pleasure to welcome Siobhan. Hello, Siobhan. Hello, Liam. Welcome, and I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm really thrilled to see what you've got cooked up, and I really want to hear what you have to say because I'm a choreographer who makes contemporary dance and you know, we commissioned Miss Cunningham, and for something about the festival from the time we started last year in New York in 2019, the connection to Sean-Nós dance, to Irish traditional dance, is not an incongruous, strange thing. And last year in New York, having Liam performing beside Una Doherty, beside Sean Ciarán, didn't look like a strange match. It all looks like it belongs, and it's another manifestation of all the varying things of Irishness. And of course, we had Morgan Bullock dancing, who is defying the definition of Irishness again with her background. So I'm handing over Siobhan and Liam, and thank you. And I can't wait to see what you have.
Thanks very much, John. We're really excited to have virtual Céilí as part of your brilliant festival, the Dancer from the Dance Festival. It's really a great coming together. Liam is going to talk a little bit about the Céilí, but a great coming together and connecting to the roots of dancing in Ireland, and a great celebration. No better way to wrap up this great festival. And it's bringing it into a modern context, not only through the virtual world, but just with some great dancers and musicians that you're about to see. So Liam, can you just introduce the Céilí as the Céilí and what people expect, what it is, where it's come from, and the typical kinds of dancing maybe that you would have at a Céilí?
Thanks, Siobhan. Absolutely, yeah. So Céilí is generally, it's a social gathering for a local community to come together and to celebrate and to connect and to share through the mediums of music, song, dance, and actual just having the crack and merriment. So I suppose it's a really good way to wrap up a festival or to wrap up a big event with this Céilí. Unfortunately, with the COVID-19, we can't come together in huge numbers like that anymore. But the interesting thing about the roots of the Céilí is it goes right back into our homes when people would gather, neighbours would gather together to share their music, song and dance in the kitchen and in the sitting room or whatever part of the house. And the nice thing about this evening is we can try and replicate that online and bring it right from these musicians and dancers' houses straight into our homes. And it's a real participatory and inclusive kind of event. So hopefully everyone will be following some of the dances at home and taking part. And if they feel moved by the music or the Holy Spirit, it just might take them with them and let rip.
Great. So So what should people expect then? Like the dances that people are going to see this evening, is that representative of dances that you would have at a Céilí, or people could join in?
Yeah, so the other thing, the great thing about this festival is it's shown Irish identity and Irish dance in its many colours and forms, which is really beautiful. And I suppose when we think of traditional dance, then people would be familiar with the image of river dance, but even that is just the tip of the iceberg about where it comes from, and the wide breadth of dances even within that genre that we have. So tonight we'll be getting a little taste of some of the social and folk dances from different parts of Ireland. And we're going to look at some maybe Donegal Highland dancing, some partner dancing or barn dances. We have some glimpses of traditional sean-nós dancing, which would generally be maybe a little bit more spontaneous or expressive of an individual. And then some other things, like if people are missing their partner, they might be looking for the brush in the kitchen and take part in some of these other dances that we have that we'll be sharing later on.
Brilliant, brilliant. So do you want to introduce the first act?
Absolutely. So the first act tonight, we're heading to Foxford in County Mayo to Tom and Stephen Doherty and Annie and Crea, who'll be joining them for a set of tunes and the clap dance which Annie and Crea have gotten from County Leitrim. So here's our first act.
Thanks, Liam.
Two, three, four. Focus. 2, 3, 4.
We really appreciate you supporting tonight's performance. If you would like to consider making a donation, we're going to show a QR code which you can access with your smartphone and make a donation to support the work of the artists for Dancer from the Dance Festival. Alternately, you can make a donation by going to irishmoderndancetheatre.com and clicking the donate button. Thank you so much.
So that was Tom and Stephen Doherty and their extended family of Annie and Crea. And they had started with a set of jigs, a set of polkas, a set of slides, and finished with a set of reels with the clap dance. Our next stop is going to take us to Dublin City via Mayo and Leitrim to Clann UI Mhaolagain. And Gabhann UI Mhaolagain is going to share with us some seanos dancing, which, as we touched on earlier, is a more informal style of dance, and you kind of just express yourself with the music and create your own steps and rhythms to complement the music. They're also going to share with us a northern dance from Ulster, the Maggie Picky, and they're going to finish up with a brush dance. So if you happen to have a sweep and brush around in your house, your apartment, wherever you're watching this from, feel free to take it up and to join in as well with the music. And we're going to go. So, Clann UI Mhaolagain.
Díomh agus fáilte. Here we have the Mulligan family, Clann UI Mhaolagain from Dublin, and we were delighted to be performing and dancing for Dance Ireland. So we have a few nice selections today. Gerhard Fiorker, my brother Fiorker, will be playing the fiddle. My other brother Oisín, an violin freisin. Dad, Neely Mulligan, the uilleann pipes. Misha Cuiva by Misha Idesa, agus ag sin will be dancing and playing, and then we have Ava here who will also be playing and dancing too. So I hope you enjoy our few selections today. We're going to start off with a set of jigs. The first one is called the Carrow Row jig, and the second one is the Wandering Minstrel. next we have a set of hornpipes. So for those of you that don't know, hornpipes are 4/4 time, the same timing as reels, but they're just a little bit slower. So we're going to start off with Cronin's hornpipe to begin with. And as you can see, Ava has picked up the concertina here, so I'll be dancing solo. So first one is Cronin's, and second one we're going to go on to Tom Mulligan's hornpipe. So Dad here composed Tom Mulligan's hornpipe for his dad, for our grandfather, so we're going to dedicate that here to him. Okay. Dances that we have, Maggie Pickens. Maggie Pickens, it's a barn dance, so very different to the normal kind of sean-nós dancing that you would be seeing. So Fiachra is going to play the lovely Maggie Pickens for me, and I'm going to dance a few steps, but mix them up a little bit as well, at a nice steady, easy pace, and we might go into a few reels then after that, so someone might join me for a little surprise. Okay?
Not me.
today's selections and dances with traditional brush dance. So as you can see, myself and Ava have our brooms here in front of us. So we're raring to go. We're going to play the Boys of Ballinhinch selection. We're going to play this at a slightly steadier pace than the traditional dance music would be played at. So if you have a brush at home, or if not, please give it a go. The steps aren't too hard. A little bit of skipping, a little bit of hopping and jumping around, but give it a go. I'll be scared míle maith go bhríost.
Perfect. There we had Cueva and Clann UI Mhaolagain in Dublin City, and the brush dance usually not taken out until much later in the night. And a really nice idea with the brushes, after the first person would make a few attempts at it or show what they have, they get to pass it on to the next person, and there's no way you can refuse the challenge. You had to try and outdo the first dancer. So hopefully no one has any accidents at home dancing around the kitchen with their brush. So our last act tonight, we're heading off to Gidor in the Donegal Gaeltacht up in the northwest, and we're going to a very musical couple, Caitlin Nic Gareiss and Ciarán Maonaigh, for our last blast of tunes. So don't be shy about jumping up and dancing and letting it out and letting rip and letting off some of the steam from during the week and celebrating the end of the festival. And towards the end of this, Caitlin is going to bring us through a Donegal Highland as well. She may be missing a partner, so if you don't have a partner, feel free to dance on your own or keep the brush with you. So Caitlin Nic Gareiss and Ciarán Maonaigh.
Hello, welcome to our Céilí at home. This is Ciarán Maonaigh and my name is Caitlin Nic Gareiss, and we're here in Gidor in Donegal. And we're going to play a blast of reels for you to start off with. So I hope you have your dancing shoes on and you can dance around the kitchen to this. So here's a blast of reels. That bow that's definitely just as if you're at a festival club tearing into it. Bow is coming apart. If that didn't wake the babies, I don't know what did. Hope you've enjoyed that and you're dancing around your kitchen. We're going to change it now and play a few jigs this time. A rake of jigs. We'll start with the Nightingale and Paudino Rafferty, and we'll see where we go after that.
Head burritos and our egg chicks.
That's it. Lock it.
down the Donegal reel and the fairy reel.
Well, to finish up, we are going to do a little dance. I want to show you a little Highland. So it's a very simple little dance. It's usually done with a partner, but Ciarán's going to play. I'm going to demonstrate with my imaginary partner. So grab someone in the kitchen. So the thing with this Highland...
Or a brush.
Or a brush. With the Highland, okay, you do one little step for the first part of the tune and a different step for the second part of the tune. So I'll just show you first. So for the first part of the tune, all it is heel, toe, heel, hop, walk, 2, 3, turn. Heel, toe, heel, hop, walk, 2, 3, turn again. Toe, heel, hop, 1, 2, 3, turn. Heel, toe, heel, hop, 1, 2, 3. And that's the first part of the tune. And that's always done to the first part of the Highland. And then the second part, when it goes into the B part of the tune, you grab your partner for waltz hold.
Or a brush.
And for the B part of the tune is just hop, white, 2, 3, hop, 2, hop, 3, and you're turning, hop, 4, hop, 5, hop, 6, and you speed it up, hop, 1, hop, 2, hop, 3, hop, 4, and then you're into it again. And that's it. Hope you could see that all right there when we give it a go.
Yeah.
I'll pretend I have a partner here. You told your partner for the first part of it like this, crossover.
Brush.
Right, okay, here. Ready? Count us in.
1, 2, 3,
transition there. Well done. This is Ciarán and I'm Kathleen, and that's us.
So that was, thanks very much, Kathleen and Ciarán. Delighted to be joined back now by Siobhan O'Malley. We also have Clann UI Mhaolagain and Nic Gareiss joining us from Dublin. And from Lansing in Michigan, we have Nic Gareiss.
Hello. Thanks, Liam. That was just brilliant. I'm absolutely wrecked dancing around the room, the Highlands and the barn dances and the brush dancers and the Maggie Pickies, and I learned loads. So, thanks for that, and thanks all the great dancers and musicians. It was brilliant. So I hope that a lot of you out there as well, watching and listening, joined in, and that you learned a few things and will continue through the weekend. I think it was really such a great reflection of the vibrant tradition of music and dance in Ireland at grassroots level. I mean, it's timeless, really. It's intergenerational. It's passed on, you know, through so many generations for so long, and in all parts of Ireland, in you know, rural Ireland, in urban Ireland, and it's just a great celebration. So kind of reflecting, Liam, to yourself, reflecting on the kind of theme for the Dancer from the Dance Festival, which is celebrating kind of choreographers in Ireland and in the US, across different practices and generations, ethnicities, and really a celebration of dance in all its forms of Irishness. So can you talk a little bit, Liam, about how you feel your Astru performance on Tuesday, looking at what you did on Tuesday and what we just saw this evening? Can you speak a bit about the similarities and the differences, but also considering how your style of dance, how you see your style of dance in expressing contemporary Irish identity? Just if you can speak a bit to that, please.
I can do my best. I can try. So Astru on that we shared on Tuesday, it was really based on looking at locality and our sense of place, which is for me personally is a very important part of my culture and my identity. And growing up, I would have taken some dance classes, but a lot of what I learned was in events like these Céilís or house dances, or mixing with friends and learning from other people, both my own age and from older generations, and dancing one-on-one with them, but also in group dances together, where you can actually feel the flow of the music and you can feel their movements. And I feel all that leaves an imprint on us as we grow up. The music that we listen to and we're exposed to, and the rhythms of the dance, all that like kind of lives in our bodies. So I suppose that phrase that we dance who we are is really true there. And even talking to some musicians, they would say that when they're playing for dancers, that the rhythm of the dancing at Céilís affects how they play their music. And I know for me that the music I listen to and dance to affects how I dance. So it's not all preordained, that it's kind of living in the moment. And I suppose that's where I draw my inspiration for dancing from. And with Astru, it was looking at those voices and that interplay between the musician and the dancer, and how one is an echo of the other, and it's a conversation of sorts.
Yeah, great, thank you, Lynn. You can't have one without the other. I mean, it's very obvious just listening to the performances tonight that music is a massive. I mean, they're just not mutually exclusive. So going on to say that the context, looking at the context for playing and dancing in Ireland. So we're looking at, you know, we mentioned the grassroots level, and when you were growing up, and this is directed at yourself and at Caoimhe and at Nic as well, say, is it surviving and thriving now? And has it changed? Like, the roots of the dancing would have been, as you said, in community, in homes, and it very much, you embody what you learned when you're growing up. Do you see that that's changing in terms of, say, performances, as opposed to the instinctive kind of very instinctive response to the music, where you might get in an Irish pub where somebody would just jump up and dance very spontaneously to the music, and then you've got, on the other hand, you've got a lot of Irish dance shows, and you've got River Dance, which has really raised awareness of Irish step dancing globally. So it's a very long-winded way of asking the question, is it changing? Is the context for this kind of dancing changing?
I can start this off, but I think Caoimhe and Nic will have a lot to contribute to this. I think Irish dance is a really, really broad term. As highlighted by this festival, it means so many different things. For me and where I'm coming from, I would feel it is changing. The opportunities to pick up dancing and music, and maybe in the way that I was exposed to it, it's still there, but not as strong as it was. Those informal opportunities and places, as music moves maybe into pubs, and reasons to get together is moving out of Céilís or smaller traditional dances into other areas, like maybe bigger festivals, which you might have to be over 18 to take part in. There is a change in transmission, but there's also an increase in classes, which also changes how it's experienced and picked up. But throw it open to Caoimhe and Nic there, if they'd like to join in.
I suppose from my point of view, I think it might be a little different to Liam, because Liam would have grown up in the west of the country and I would have been in the east. So my family would have been primarily musicians, that came down. I'm the 6th generation, I think. I'd be the 5th generation, sorry. I'd be the 5th generation. So the music would have come down through that sense. But dance-wise, I remember I used to see kind of clips on TV, but there weren't many opportunities for me learning here. So I had a teacher, Siobhan David, for, was it 3 or 4 months? And then after that, she went off, she was doing a bit of study. So I had to travel to small festivals around Ireland and little workshops and stuff. But I feel like if I didn't have the music roots from Dad, maybe I wouldn't have had someone to tell me where these workshops were, or any of that kind of sense. So I think, like you said, the music needs the dance and the dance needs the music. You need them both. So I don't know if Dad has anything that he'd like to.
She's doing very well. She's doing very well.
Yeah. But like that, I think dance has evolved in the sense that maybe in the east of the country where I am here, there wouldn't have been, Sean-Nós dancing wouldn't have been popular at all, whereas it is blossoming now. But also that if you want to kind of make a name for yourself, or to do something, you have to, nearly the Sean-Nós isn't enough anymore, that you have to do something different and be a bit more creative with project-wise, or even to bring the music and the song into it as well. So it is, I think, constantly evolving, and we don't really know what direction it's going in. I think that's kind of up to artists and performers themselves, what they can get from it, and what they can get inspiration from other artists and other performance wise bits like that. So I don't know if Nic has anything that he'd like to add to that.
Bravo, Caoimhe. So nice to see you and hear you dancing. It's incredible. Absolutely. Like my experience, again, being certainly from a very different background, growing up in the United States, and coming into contact with traditional music and dance of Ireland as a kind of folk form or a cluster of traditional practices. And those for me have always been in dialogue with other traditional arts practices like step dance from the Appalachian region of my country in the United States, or step dance from the eastern part of Canada, or from just north of where I am in Ontario. So these forms have kind of always been in conversation for me. But I sometimes get frustrated when people juxtapose performance in a theatrical sense from performance in a day-to-day sense. And I guess I would like to make the audacious claim that even in the pub or in the family context, or perhaps even now, we are making performances in this way. And also, I think it's crucial to remember that there is a class, a historical class of workers, perhaps not in sean-nós dancing, but in another related Irish cultural practice, thinking about perhaps the dancing of dancing masters in North Kerry, or other styles of dancing masters in Munster, who taught as part of their practice. That was, the form itself actually was really shaped by this pedagogy, and actually even the way that these people needed to make a living was to teach complicated things to their students. So I'm just reminded as I watch all this, and so really inspired by the ways that these forms, traditional music and traditional dance, become sites of negotiation for different kinds of our identity, right? Our identity of place, perhaps our identity of language, or of our gender and sexuality, our nationhood. And I'm wondering about the ways that folks in these forms negotiate or could negotiate our axes of identity. And I guess what I would say is that I hold that these forms are exceptionally dynamic, that they are kind of in their own way a little bit avant. This idea of making sound on the floor is a strange idea. And they become really productive means by which we can generate like ruptures or reference our ancestors, or express our connection or disconnection from the community, from a family, or from a place. As a person interested in traditional arts broadly, I think we need to keep reminding, like arts presenters and curators, that traditional forms are rich, rich ways of expressing contemporaneity through localized cultural movement and sound, that they aren't stuck, that they are quite dynamic, and that they are another site of negotiation for our current moment.
Fantastic, Nic and Caoimhe and Liam. That's really interesting. I mean, the dynamism that you mentioned, Nic, about traditional arts, I would completely concur with. And Caoimhe as well had mentioned one of the dances that she did was what was one of the oldest dances? Was it a barn dance or a Maggie, whichever one? But also that it's very much expressed in a contemporary way and contemporary context. It's always evolving, and I think that's the exciting thing. Actually, it's the exciting thing, and as well what you're doing with across a lot of different forms is really great. It's broadening it into the context that we're now speaking in, which is really great. I was interested, Caoimhe, just to it's fantastic just to hear you, that you're the fifth generation musicians in your family. That's just so special, and I suppose really it's a special thing with Irish music and dancing, how it has been transmitted. You mentioned it's true, if it wasn't for your family, maybe you wouldn't have had access to classes. So just kind of how important is family or community in transmitting the dance and the music? Or do you think that it's now about classes? Is it where is it at?
If I can go back, Siobhan, I can go back maybe a generation before you to when I was learning music in my younger days. It was very seldom that you saw a sean-nós dancer. I think one of the few sean-nós dancers we saw around Dublin was Paddy Bon O'Brien, who lived not too far away from us, and who taught me the tin whistle in my very early days in the Church Street Club, which was kind of a club that flourished in the 50s and 60s. That's going back. But when we went over to Connemara to learn Irish as kids, which we did every summer for a few months around Coláiste Lorgan and Spideal, that was the only other time that you'd see sean-nós dancing really performed, and that was mainly in playing music in a pub. So sean-nós dancing in those days was not as common at all as it is today, and it's wonderful. I think it's a beautiful art form. I think it's wonderful to see this flourishing so much. And I think a lot of it goes back to maybe the Oireachtas competitions, where sean-nós became very popular. I think the piping was the early popular competition, and then it was sean-nós singing, and piping would have been over 100 years ago. But that was a very big competition. Now it's not held at all. It's disappeared completely. But the sean-nós singing and now the sean-nós dancing, I think, have become two most important, I suppose, forms of expression of song and dance, and the music, of course. And it's great to see that those very old traditions to the fore now in such a great way. I remember Tommy Reck telling me he was a great piper. He was taught by old John Potts, who was Tommy Potts' father, and he was a great piper from Wexford. And when he was teaching Tommy the pipes, he told him that there was slow reels and there was dancing reels. So certain tunes were taught and played in a slow fashion, and then other tunes were played in a faster fashion for dancers. So this tradition goes back a long, long time. And I think, with the introduction of the Irish dancing and with the Gaelic League and that at the end of the 19th century into the 20th century, that was mainly clergy influence. Someone said to me that the hands were held straight by their sides, so there would be no bodily contact. So this sean-nós dancing goes back way before that. I'm just trying to draw a picture for some of the people that mightn't know about the sean-nós dancing. So it's a very, very old art form, and it's wonderful. It's like the harp and the pipes were badly affected by the famine and everything, but they've come back in great art, and now the sean-nós dancing has come back as well. I think it's wonderful to see that, and particularly it's wonderful to see very small kids, like from 8, 9, 10, doing sean-nós dance and doing it really, really well. And it's just flourishing all over. If you go to the sean-nós competitions in the Oireachtas, it's just flourishing, and you have to go through qualifier rounds now to get to the main competition, if you like, on the Saturday. So it's really become very, very popular. It's wonderful to see. It's a joy to watch, especially when you're playing music and you're asking about playing music and the connection with the sean-nós dancing. It's wonderful to play and see these kids jumping up, and adults, of course. It kind of brings another music to another dimension, the whole art form of performing, and playing and enjoying. The enjoyment of the whole thing, I suppose, is everything.
I think it also shows the importance of kind of offering young children opportunities from young ages, because I've seen so many young kids that if they weren't given the opportunities or open to even see dancing, sean-nós dancing or tap dancing or Appalachian flatfoot, any sort of dancing at all, that if they hadn't seen it or come into contact with it, that they wouldn't be dancers now, and they wouldn't have this talent that they're hiding. I think everyone has a talent to dance, and everyone has a talent to play music, that you just need to provide the youth with these opportunities, and from there we will grow and develop, and we'll have maybe armies full of dancers then.
That's fantastic. That is so interesting, Neely. Thank you so much for giving us that kind of background. One thing that I suppose I've noticed, well, in terms of gender, sean-nós dancing was generally men only, wasn't it, in the past? And now there are so many great young female sean-nós dancers. And then the other thing that I noticed with sean-nós, it's that kind of solo form of dance, which is not as you mentioned, Neely, not as kind of stiff and rigid, more freestyle. But to me, there's a kind of a nice a similar sensibility with some forms of contemporary dance expression. So Sean-Nós, for me, has that great ability for self-expression in Irish dance. I don't know if any of you want to comment about that.
I think in a small way, Siobhan, it's a bit like the Sean-Nós dancing and the Sean-Nós singing in that, and the music to a great extent, that you can play tunes and dances and sing Sean-Nós songs to stay within certain parameters. But what makes it so interesting is the variance and the variety, if you like, and the inventiveness and the embellishments that people can bring into music, song and dance in these art forms. Yeah. And that's what makes Irish music and dance and singing so interesting, is that, you know, if they sing, say, a Sean-Nós song, they'll sing one verse once a certain way, and the next time they come around, they'll sing it with certain embellishments or changes or variants to the notes, hold on to notes or shorten notes or play with the notes up and down. And it's a bit like that with the dancing, and especially in Sean-Nós, you can invent a certain amount of steps and do that as you go along. And when you're playing music as well, you can do the same thing. You won't play, a good musician won't play it straight each time. They'll change it and do certain things that they like to do with music, you know. And I think that's the wonderful variety and excitement, I suppose, about Irish music and song and dance.
Absolutely. Extremely creative. I mean, it's very, what you're talking about, it's so creative and evolving all the time and bringing it into where we are. I mean, modern dance in all its forms. So thank you for those insights. Liam, or before we wrap up, Liam or Nic, do you have anything else to contribute or anything else you'd like to say?
I think it's really interesting to think about this idea of expressivity. Sometimes perhaps we posit like one form being more expressive of another form or something like that. And I think it's quite important to remember that, you know, like as a medium or as a cultural practice, perhaps the form isn't necessarily more expressive, but this is a story we tell ourselves about extemporaneous percussive dance, right? It's like this inside out technique thing where you're responding. Maybe you're responding to your own training or to the music. And if indeed we are expressing something, my curiosity then is like, what if you need to express something that's taboo or a little bit off beyond what your community thinks is acceptable? And I'm thinking, especially these days, a lot about narratives about people like Jeremiah Maonaigh, who was a dancing master in North Kerry. And the stories that people tell about him, he was quite a grand character, even though he was a very short man, and that he walked with a silver-tipped cane and dressed in the clothes of the gentry. And there's something about the over-the-topness of that presentation. I think it's partially marketing. You know, he needed to present himself as a way to get work. But also, it makes me think about the kinds of particular performances, especially in dress and presentation, that queer and trans people, that we do, especially in the sense of thinking about an over-the-topness of masculinity, or a campness, maybe, this ornamentalness. And I always like to think about queerness as a kind of beyondness or outsiderness, and kind of open queerness in that way. So in my brain lately, Jeremiah Maonaigh has kind of become a little bit of a person who's maybe doing some gender play, or maybe exists between a gender binary. Maybe Jeremiah the Drag King project is coming soon, where we reimagine the possibility of this person from rural Ireland who maybe expressed something beyond a dualist gender. And I think that perhaps even if it's a fancy of my own, it would perhaps make space in the historical narrative for people of all stripes and all ways of being in this world. So I like to imagine that it gives me pleasure, which I think these forms are also about, this kind of radical commitment to expressing pleasure and sharing it together. So that's something that I've been thinking about a bit.
That's fantastic. That's really exciting, Nic. We're going to watch that space. Look forward to it. I think we're kind of running out of time now, and John will probably come in to wrap up the festival. Thanks everyone for your contributions.
Thank you, Siobhan. And Caoimhe and Nic and Liam. It's been completely, I've just got lost in this. It's joyous. And there's just, I think one of the things I'm learning about all of this and the festival is how vital sean-nós dance is to all of the, I don't know it, I never trained in it, I love it, but I'm Irish, but I can't get up and do this, but it's somewhere in there. It's somewhere in there, and it's important to all the things that all of us are doing, that Toby and Muftau are doing, that Morgan is doing in the States, that that everybody, Isabella, all the different artists are doing. There's something about whatever the Irish imagination is, and Nic and your amazing courage and pioneering and broadening the voice. It's very moving. It's wonderful. I think you know, this pandemic has maybe kept us in our houses a bit, but I think there's a lot of amazing energy and a lot of beautiful things are coming out of this. And I am trying to look on the whole situation as some sort of a bizarre gift, and we keep going and we keep pushing. And after this, I'm going to go to the kitchen and find a sweeping brush and start trying to experiment with this. It's completely blown me away today. So Gurv Mila Mahagat, it was all really beautiful. I'm completely brimming over and moved. And it's also funny, the evening began with Merce Cunningham's work, and then the documentary on Merce Cunningham and Roratorio, and the music John Cage made, and he used Mel and Peather Mercer and Paddy Glacken and Joe Heaney, and his Merce Cunningham's choreography was inspired by sean-nós dancing and Irish step dancing, and there are jigs and all kinds of things in it. And it was the perfect bridge from way out contemporary to documentary to installation to tonight. And thank you very, very much, all of you. And I cannot thank the artists enough in the festival for everything they've done. I'm blown away, and there are 32 choreographers excluding the artists tonight. That's, I think, 37 artists who have given something in the last 5 days. And there you go. Ireland is fighting back. We're kicking above our weight, and there are people watching all over the world. The viewing figures have been incredible for the festival. So we are visible, and it's going to remain on YouTube for people to access afterwards. So the festival, we've done it very much on a shoestring. Our company staff is me and Greta Burke, the company manager, who works half time, 4 days a week. And I have to thank hugely Greta Burke for not just the extra hours, but her belief in this and her tenacity and ingenuity, and for pushing this. My board, the Friends of Irish Modern Dance Theatre board in New York as well, because it's always a festival that has one foot in New York. That's Mortimer, my dog. And yes, so Friends of Irish Modern Dance Theatre in New York, Irish Modern Dance Theatre here in Dublin. And thank you also, Mortimer is getting really excited, and he will not be stopped either. Our partners, Dance Ireland, Irish Arts Centre, Project Arts Centre, Centre Culturel Irlandais, Dance Limerick, Dance Ireland, and our supporters, the Arts Council, Culture Ireland, Dublin City Council, and News Talk. We'd also like to thank all the people who have given donations. You are also our supporters. We can't do it without you. Please keep giving donations. Everyone is in keeping with the Arts Council's Pay the Artist. Everyone is being paid for this. And we want to keep going, and we want to pay more. We will see you next year in person and online. And Mortimer is not going to be stopped. So with Mortimer and I, thank you. And Mortimer, come here. Just a moment, he has to appear. So this is Mortimer. Come on, just a moment. I'm leaving the screen. Oh, come on. Yeah. Meet Mortimer. Mortimer has also helped with the festival in a huge way. And he's been watching it on TV. He sings along. And Mortimer and I and all the company, we want to thank everyone for supporting us. And yes, there we go. So Mortimer, do you want to say a big thank? Mortimer, do you want to say anything? So I'm also a tenor, so I'm just going to sing a thank you. And if we're lucky, Mortimer will sing along. Mortimer, thank you. And Slán Ihawa Mhaolagain Mahogat. So Mortimer's gone off to bark at a cat in next door, and I'm going to leave you all. Sláinte, this is just water, but I'll be having something stronger soon. Also, huge thanks to the people behind the scenes with whom we could not do this. Conleth Stanley, our production manager, Chris Ignacio in New York, our web manager, and also Michelle Cahill on marketing and Conleth Tevan on publicity. So thank everyone. There are so many people I have to thank. We will, and come back and watch this on YouTube, share it, tell your friends, and thank you very much, and see you again soon. Thank you very much. Good night.
Slán.
Slán live, Iwa.
Slán live. Call us off.
Bye-bye.